Four lines from the bottom on page Yud. We're saying that the principle of Keilim are actually rooted in the tzimtzum itself. As we said, tzimtzum dafka. It is not merely that there is a reduction of oil, but the very process of reducing it, of limiting it and withholding it, this is what provides the Keilim. And we need to try to understand what the significance of this is, as we already spoke about. Okay, so we have 4 lines from the bottom. The line begins with the words "Min guv tzimtzum atzmai." That the Keilim come from the guv tzimtzum, guv and the tzimtzum itself, not the result of the tzimtzum, but from the fact of tzimtzum. Mishakos Beis Chaim Shom, all of them Beis. The Ayin tzimtzum, so it says in the Ayin tzimtzum, who that the principle, the Ayin, the function, and the meaning of the tzimtzum is legalois. It is to reveal shoyres hadin, the root of the principle of din. Din means what? Like we said when we spoke about, din means a clear judgment. Din provides for yes and no. You get, but this you don't get. This means din. There's a significance in the in this combination of the yes and no. Because if there is just a limited yes, is not enough.
Is that the distinction between din and Keilim? Keilim can be a limited yes.
Oh, yeah. Well. That is the distinction between tzimtzum of the oil or tzimtzum that affects the Keilim.
In din, that explosivity seems like that's also by Keilim.
The principle of tzimtzum, it will become clear in just as 2 words. The principle of tzimtzum is that there is that which is being withheld, not the limiting of what is being given. Limiting what being given, this is the tzimtzum also, but the tzimtzum that affects the oil. But there isn't the element of withholding, of not giving. Tzimtzum, that they talk about here, tzimtzum means, the principle of tzimtzum essentially, as it is described elsewhere, that first there is a complete withholding, and then you mamshich in a limited fashion. There's a whole question in Chassidus. Why does it have to be a tzimtzum? Why can't a tzimtzum means that there's complete withholding, absence, and then you mamshich. Why can't the initial oil be funneled in a certain way? So it's explained that if the oil is funneled in a certain way, there is not the element of Keilim.
What was the question? The oil was everywhere. So
What?
The oil was in the beginning. The oil was everywhere. Then there was a tzimtzum. So it can't be followed. If it's everywhere red, it has to be first taken away.
Like we said in our Moshe. The Moshe what we had was the opening of the taking down the walls of the treasure house. When one begins, let's take a more meaningful. One begins to teach his child. He opens up a Gemara. He opens up a Gemara. The child is totally not fit for the Gemara. He starts saying, "Shnai moichas in betalis." The child doesn't know what you're talking about. So he goes on and says, "Shnaim, two people are holding on to a talis. Why are they holding to the talis? Because they're disputing, they're arguing who the talis belongs to. So what is that? So you can go on and explain the whole thing. You have not really gone to the child's world. Yes, you are teaching him what it says, but the child cannot join you.
Continue. You're going to middle.
What is the proper way of teaching a child? First, you don't teach him anything. Like we said but up until 3 years old, we're not machal. And then he becomes a little bit curious. And then he's saying, in his world, he can put on a little telescope. That's also part of it because he wears garment. This is another garment. He has something in his world. Tzimtzum, the pshat from tzimtzum, the real pshat from tzimtzum is not that you are limiting what you are giving. You're giving him piecemeal. That's not tzimtzum. Tzimtzum is that you just don't give him the thing at all. AyinBase is not a tzimtzum of the Gemara. AyinBase is a different word. AyinBase does not entail his intelligence. Doesn't have to relate to it. Just learns an Aleph. Just the Keilim itself.
And teaching him an Aleph, you going in his world.
Teaching Aleph what?
By teaching an Aleph, you going in the child's world.
Yes. He has a choice. This toy looks like this, looks like this. The Rebbe describes, the Rebbe describes his Malamed. And he taught him AyinBase. The Malamed said, what does an Aleph look like? An Aleph looks like the Wasserträger, a water carrier. He had this stick and two pails on either side.
And this is the correct way to teach.
The Rebbe is fixed on that. Says he was an excellent Malamed. He says an Aleph is like a water truck carrier. So in the child's world, when nobody saw a water carrier, he mentioned, oh, that's like him. In other words, you're talking about the water carrier, not even about an Aleph. But you are correlating them. So the child thinks that this form, this water carrier, this is a whole mitzvah. This is all you're teaching him. The form of this aleph. That's tzimtzum. When you're teaching him an aleph, like we have the AyinBase chart, and we have the aleph in a siddur. When you're teaching an aleph in a siddur, you're showing him an aleph, but the child does not really relate to the aleph. He says, "What is all about? What is all around it?" AyinBase chart, that is the child's world. It's exclusively this thing. This is what creates Keilim. Because the principle of Keilim is to eventually to translate something that is really in a different world completely, in oil, in a Shoma world. But to create, on the physical level, to create something that would be representative of that thing. Let us go back to our table for a moment. We said many times, yes, a table provides convenience, but this is not the meaning of a table to a human being. A table is called Shulchan Melochim. The Shulchan in the Mishkan, in the Mikdash, had a crown. The crown represents the royalty. Why does Shulchan represent royalty? Let us examine the concept of a table for a moment. The aspect of convenience that you have a way to put your cup, that comes after you have the cup in your hand. Before the cup is in your hand, you don't need a table. So if you have a cup in your hand, and I'm presenting you with a place to put the cup down, that's not royalty. That's a simple service that you can't hold the cup in your hands and until you want to put it down. Royalty is the pshat that you have a table prepared for all your uses. It's prepared for all your uses. Why do you prepare for my uses? And here is the royalty element comes in. I said many times that the oil, it means like this, that even though that I am in my place, but the area around me is there for my use, for my comfort. Therefore I prepare a table. Just in case I'll need to put something down, I'll have it. This represents the essence of the person rather than the utility of putting it down. Do we get the point? This comes from the human being himself, the concept of that a human being actually occupies the space around him. There's an interesting halacha. Halacha is always so on the head. The Gemara says that a person, 4 amas around him is his domain. How is it his domain? He doesn't own it. 4 amas around him is his domain. Because that's the mentality of a person, that the area around him, he's present. He is not locked into his little thing. He is in the world, and the area around him is part of his orientation, his personal orientation. Otherwise, it feels very uncomfortable. You know the concept of claustrophobia. A person cannot be cloistered. I always explain that phobia is a certain person has a certain weakness, but the principle of claustering is universal. Not only somebody has a phobia, feels uncomfortable in cloister. A human being cannot be cloistered. Cloistered means locked in a limited area. Because we said many times, a human being lives in the entire reality. And to be cloistered is totally unnatural for him. To the extent that halachically, 4 amos around him, this is his domain.
The table here came as a mashal for Keilim. And as a mashal for the highest thing being manifest in a physical.
Okay, so here's the thing. Right. So, initially, we're talking about the royalty or element of the human being. Then you take that Inyan and you translate it on a physical level.
Right.
In what and that takes the form of a table.
Okay. And that's a Keilim.
That yes.
And is that different or very similar to Din? Because we've been defining.
This is the principle of Din.
Oh, it is. Keilim and Din are kind of synonymous here.
Keili is rooted in Din.
Oh.
It's rooted in Din. Just 1 second. Where is the Din element? Where is the Din element in the table? Like you say, a few more words over there. Like I said before, a table is prepared for the person because he, in his spirit, he occupies the area around him. What is the area for? Nothing. He's just not cloistered. And in case, practically speaking, if he will need it, he will be able to use it. But he doesn't. This is not the practical thought of it. He just cannot be. He just spreads out beyond his limited, his immediate presence. This presence, this place, this area that he occupies outside of his own presence. On the one hand, it represents nothing. There's nothing in there. It doesn't represent his intelligence, doesn't represent his means, nothing. On the other hand, it provides for whatever you want to put there. Now, but if he would have to put a book down, he would be able to put it down. If you put a cup down, you'll be able to put it down. This is the principle of a Keili. A Keili is in a different realm. If the table were limited, that you can only put a sefer down, you can't put a cup down, it's not a Keili.
It does have the element of definition and judgment because it is here and not there.
Oh, that's right. The judgment that's the only thing is that it's limited here and not there. But what it is positively is not defined.
It's defined, but it's got range. I mean, it is defined that it won't hold an elephant, but you can have a whole range of different things you can put on it.
Yeah, but in this range there is no definition as to what this is for. This is simply providing the area around the person. Whatever the person whatever comes into the area around him. Let us read 2 more words, okay?
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
How do we reconcile the idea of the 4 amos being the domain of somebody and the fact that the human being owns the whole world? Is that the illustration of tzimtzum?
in your home. You own your home. Can somebody else enter that home?
If I let him in, yes.
What?
If I let him in.
If you let him in, you have room for somebody else in there. But if you allow him in, you would sit him over here. You would not sit him on your lap.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a difference between your domain and within your ownership. You own the world in terms that this is your responsibility. Nothing in the world is outside of your responsibility. Domain is something different. Domain is where you're personally practicing, functioning.
Mm-hmm. What does, when you say responsibility, what does this entice?
Well, this entails that if you walk in the street and you see a pothole, and you see it's a dangerous pothole, people are walking in and they may fall into this and get hurt. It's your responsibility to see to it that it's covered. It's not your home. It's in the park someplace. But your responsibility to see that it's covered.
It was said before that a table is a shulchan maluchim. It's royalty. It's not just that I'm able to put down something. What defines the royalty?
Oh. We explained many times what's the difference between an extremely wealthy person and a king. There's a difference on two levels. Number one, the wealthy person, as wealthy as he is, there's a limit to his wealth. If it is spent indefinitely, it will be exhausted at some point. The wealth of the king will never be exhausted. It's always being replenished. That's on one hand. On the other hand, it's a completely the opposite of the principle. The wealthy person has wealth in his pocket. The king has nothing in his pocket. What does he have? The entire reality of his country is constantly in his service, in his service. The king, as my father said, how long he's not even allowed to own a lot of wealth. He has nothing of his own. Malchus ain't because he doesn't need it, because it's supported by everything around him. You have no choice. This is the famous example. Ein melech b'lo Ayin. Why ein melech b'lo Ayin? Because that's a definition of a melech. He's a melech al. He personally doesn't have anything. He doesn't need anything. Because the entire reality of this is dedicated to support him.
So in our motion, the table is to support him.
What?
In our motion,
Yeah.
the table is
the table is placed in the area around him. Why? Because the area around him is dedicated to his support. That's its symbolic of loyalty.
It was said before also that the tzimtzum creates Keilim.
Tzimtzum is the root of Keilim, provides for Keilim.
How could it be? Tzimtzum is it's lacking. How does it create something?
Let's read a little further. 3 lines from the bottom. Going in Chaim, it says like this: Shoyresh Hadin, the root of Din, Hu Bechinas HaMokom, is the aspect of Makom. Shehu Dukmas HaKeilim, which is approximated the Inyan of Keilim. Let's examine Makom for a moment. Makom means place. Place is like this. On the one hand, the place is not related to the things that are in this place. On the other hand, the place accommodates the things that are in the place. Like we have oisiyos are called Keilim. Oisiyos, letters. Oisiyos are not related to the subject where that you write with them, but they completely accommodate. With oisiyos you can express any subject. In other words, it gives it fills its place. It gives it a place. It gives it a place to rest. But it is just gives it a place to rest. It doesn't become part of it.
The letter here is a mashal for Makom.
Letter is like Makom. Letter is Makom.
Okay. So now we have Keilim, Din, and Makom.
Right.
This one initial is we said that Din is the origin.
And the Makom, Shehu Dugmas HaKeilim.
Are we saying so?
Here's a Makom, Shehu Dugmas HaKeilim.
Shorish Din Hu B'chinas Makom. Shehu Dugmas HaKeilim. That's to say Makom is first, then Din, then Keilim.
Makom is first. That's right. Makom is first. Makom is an interesting thing. On the one hand, it provides for anything you put there. On the other hand, it provides for it without designing it. Whatever you put, that's what becomes its Makom. Makom, in other words, is a provider without interfering, without defining what it is providing for. Now let's go a little bit inside this. Oyer. Oyer. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as neutral oyer. Oyer that does not say anything. Oil is inherently of a content. Even the oil, it is representative of some meaningful element. Keilim do not necessarily have a meaningful presence.
Space.
This is what we said before. You're going to start to explain to the child a concept. He doesn't know what you're talking about. How do you present it to him? Completely stripped of the concept. Just the mitzias of it. This is the case. Now, if the cases do not have any meaning, then what do they stand for? What is the significance of the case? The significance of the Keilim is that, like I said, the inyan had din. Din means right and wrong. Din. I'm going to go back to Shnai Moiches in Betalis, because this is when we discussed. Two people are holding on to a talis, and they're arguing, and the Bezin go to the Bezin, and the Bezin said, divide it. Now, what is the Psagdin issue divided? Does dispute get resolved by the division? That the division identify who this belongs to? How do you know? It doesn't identify anything. It just gives a psak. This is what you do. Under this circumstance, this is what you do.
It's like a compromise.
Okay, it's not a compromise. A compromise halachically. A compromise. Yitzhak, what's the matter?
I can't hear. I can't.
Oh, then he's finished.
I can't hear the two sentences.
Okay, come on. Okay.
There's a space here.
It doesn't. It's not out close. I'll be closer to them.
Okay. A compromise halachically cannot be administered without the consent of the two contestants. It's called a pshara. When two people come with a dispute to a rov, he asks him, do you want a pshara or do you want din? He cannot administer a pshara without their consent.
And here the din is the actual division of the talis.
Of the item.
And this has to do with right and wrong.
Has to do with right and wrong?
And this is somehow has not significance. This is like Keilim that has not significance.
What's mean not significant? It does not identify, does not go back to the source of the dispute.
It does not go to the source. It's unrelated to how they got into that situation.
That's right.
So
Doesn't relate, doesn't identify it. It gives a psak din. Right now, under this circumstance, this is what you do. And on what basis? On the basis that I'm asking that this is what you have to do.
So this is like din without or. This is without or, without meaning.
That's
It's just like, you guys are in this situation, here's what we'll do.
That's right. You also go back to this. Normally, in a svara, in an oil, you explain. You do this because of this and this and that, and it's justified. Midas come from seichel. Seichel affects the midas. Seichel is a reflection of Rotzen and Noinek. It's a reflection of Rotzen and Noinek.
Justified. Here it's justice, but without justification.
That's right. Interesting, isn't it? What's going on? Okay, Akiva, I want you to wake up. What is going on? There's a phenomenal thing in this. Din is in Makom. Please understand what's going on here in the Shnai Merchas in the times. These two people are individual people. Each one has his own interest, his own place, his own reason that he claims that this is his gun. Okay, finished. But this gun and these two people are not in no man's land. They are in the Mavish's world, in the Makom of the Davish creation. This Makom allows for both of them, gives room for both of them, on an individual basis and on a combined basis, together and separate. If they want to separate, the Makom separates them. Are we getting the point over here?
Not sure.
Why do you separate between them?
Why do you rule between them?
Yeah, why do you rule them? Say,
They're having a conflict.
okay, so what? Let them have a conflict.
The basis for ruling is that there needs to be a resolution.
Why?
Because Hashem's world, I guess.
Because they both have a right to occupy this space.
They have conflicting rights at this moment, right?
No, they're not. In terms of occupying the space, they're not conflicting.
Right. But this object is having conflict.
That's right. So now you separate them so that each one has his place.
Yeah.
Why? Because each one has a right to his place.
You
Not on the
separate-
basis of where the dispute came from, but on the basis that each one has a place, has a right to his place.
Okay.
In other words, the psak din is based on the current situation, on the part that each one has a right to his place.
Right. Okay. But what could be more meaningful than that? That doesn't sound like.
What?
What could be more meaningful than that? That sounds like full of meaning. That doesn't sound like Keilim without.
That is full of meaning if you come from the Mavish's perspective. But if you come from a worldly perspective, say, no, how come you're taking half of my gun? This is my gun. I'm not going to let you.
So okay, so it's resolved at a higher level, at a macro level. On the micro, on their level,
It's resolved on a higher level. On what basis? Because it is the higher level that provides for their individual property.
So okay, so from the higher level, it is or.
No. It does not identify that it belongs to them, to the two of them. It could belong to one of them.
Oh, so just so then hence separating and putting them back.
This is the pshat din. It's a very it's a very subtle in it. I'd like to go into the words inside, and we will try to focus in on something. There's not much of hasbara in this, in breaking down, but Bichlal, over here, it's expected that one will understand because you come into this with your whole neshama, with your whole truth, and then you'll be able to understand this. Let's 3 lines from the bottom. The shoyresh hadin hu bechinas hamokum. The root of din is bechinas hamokum. Bechinas hamokum means the aspect of mokum. What's the aspect of mokum? The aspect that is that everything that exists has to have a place to be.
Rabbi Paltiel, hello?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask you what you're saying about din? There's no particular justification for it, other than the Rav says this is a psak din. But isn't the function of din supposed to be to say where this thing belongs?
That's right.
I'll be clear.
That's right.
And there's no justification for that?
The justification is the mokum, because like I just explained, because in order that there be a garment, in order that there be a human being, he has to have a place. And going that to the point of mokum, this is where din comes in, and it adjudicates the mokum that this one occupies, the mokum that this one occupies.
Not having anything to do with the circumstances by which this was found.
That's right. That's right. Who picked it up first? We don't. There's no way to ascertain that.
I'm sorry, I missed what you just said.
What?
I missed what you just said.
There's no way to ascertain who picked it up first.
You don't need to.
You don't need to. In this Mishnah, I will point out a very interesting thing. Everybody, when they learned the Mishnah, they said, we divided. Oh, I know why we divided. Because we assumed that the reason that they both claim that they picked it up at first is because they both picked it up at the same time. And that's why they're missing the point. They picked it up at the same time. That's why we divided. This is our assumption. So then you go and read the Mishnah 2 lines later. And the Mishnah says, if one claims that the whole thing is mine, and the other claims the half is mine. So then we say, since he says that only half is his, so he already admits that half it belongs to the other one. So they're only disputing now 1/2. So we take this half that they're disputing and divide it. So this one takes 3/4 and this one takes 1/4. Now, what is the scenario in the initial dispute that created that this one should own 1/4 and this one own 3/4? How did that happen? How did this one pick up 3/4 first and this one pick up 1/4 first? How did this happen? In other words, we're going into a different level, to a different arena. This is called Makom. Where is this occurring?
It's called what? Makom?
Yeah. Where is this occurring?
And the point that there's no way to ascertain who picked it up first, that's not the limit of, that's not a problem with executing the law. That's like besides the point.
Right. If you say there's no way to, I said to you before, if the Beis passes on the basis of a pshara, of a compromise, that's not a psak din.
And if the Beis could ascertain who picked it up first, the witnesses or the one said?
No, then that's something else. Then there's no dispute. The witnesses is the witnesses. I don't know how you can have witnesses that this one picked up 3/4 and this one picked up 1/4. But that is hardly possible.
So the Beis is really dealing with an indeterminate situation.
The Beis is adjudicating. They are superimposing the din on the situation. Rather than drawing it from the situation, they're superimposing the din on the situation.
They're declaring, here's what it is.
They're imposing it.
And that sounds like they had to do that because they don't have enough evidence. They don't have enough to rule that it's this guy's or that guy's, so they say, okay, break it in half.
Again, if it is not a clear deed, they have no right to impose it. In other words, if they're imposing it just to eliminate fighting, it's not a deed.
Uh-huh.
A melech can do that, but a dozen has no right to do that.
And here, when they do that, and they don't have sufficient evidence to know who got it, who had it first.
So they say that al pi Torah, you own half, you own half. Al pi Torah, you own a quarter, you own 3/4.
And that's not just to get rid of the fight.
No, the Torah imposes this. The Torah imposes this halacha.
And that's a Keilim.
And that is the case. In other words, please understand what that means. Now that we got through, you with me a little bit? It means that you own the garment. True, you own the garment because you found it, you put money for it. But there is a bottom line why you own the garment. Because it's in your hand. It's in your place. That's the bottom. So sometimes, if you can't adjudicate it, and there is no evidence, and the person cannot and doesn't need to go back to the initial dispute, because 2 3/4 and a quarter just does not have a true initial circumstance.
How much more do you have to do?
Therefore, you go back to the bare basics. You claim this garment is yours, which means that the place that this garment occupies belongs to you. You claim the garment is yours, the place that the garment occupies belongs to you. So we say, you both own the place. It's not going to the garment, it's going to the basic, what allows the garment to exist. This is the adjudication that comes from Din, from the Torah. Now that we reach to this, please, let's understand what this is all about. The whole world is God's creation. It exists only because God created it. Because God gave it a place to be. This is where it is. It's not yours, it's not yours, it's not his, it's not anybody. Its real presence is what God, is the presence that God gave it. You can't own anything except for it being given to you by the Creator of the world. This brings us to the phenomenal union of ownership that we point out in the Torah. Ownership. Ownership is a God-given jurisdiction. It's not a conventional thing. It's not a humanly created thing. This is the profound message in these few words. Sheresh adin hu b'chinas hamokoim shu dugmas hakeilim. B'chinas hamokoim, which means you cannot own anything, you cannot have anything if there is no place for it. This Makom belongs to the Creator of the Makom. This cup is in this place right now, but does the cup own this place? I move it and it owns this place. The the Makom always remains under the jurisdiction of the owner of the entire Makom, and you are permitted to you have the right to use it and to place your object in there. This is where the dispute occurs on the Makom level, and this is where the psak din comes from. That surfaces as a result of the tzimtzum.
What surfaces?
This whole Makom element surface as a result of the tzimtzum. The tzimtzum, just like in the case of our dispute over here, when the people arguing about the garment, and the source of their dispute, how it occurred, it totally hidden. We cannot explain how this happened. Let's take a very simple example. The union from Agdas Hashem. This is deep down in the nefesh or in the neshama. But the neshama only knows one thing. And it says Motzu Lisha, it knows nothing else. It's deeply ingrained. This is where it's coming from. Oyneg and Rotzin from the neshama knows only one truth. Doesn't know any multiple truths. Doesn't need to be substantiated, doesn't need to be explained, doesn't need to be stated. This is the truth for it is. Now, they want to express this truth in a physical environment. In a physical environment. How do we do that? How do we get the goof to testify the union from Agdas Hashem? You make a box in the form of tefillah, and you write a piece of parchment, this message that Hashem echoed. Put it into that box, and you tie that box onto your arm. They don't need to do it, because the arm that will, if you teach the arm Shema Yisrael Hashem Echad, he doesn't know what you're talking about. But the arm exists in Makom, in physical space. So in that physical space, you put it down in that place. So you say, but I don't know. Listen, ask the heart that's next to your arm. It'll tell you what this is about.
What is what?
The heart will tell. Will explain to you what these boxes are about. Or the brain will explain to you what these boxes are about. This is the Keilim, this is the Makom. You put it down to the lowest level. And this is where, and this is due to the tzimtzum. where you completely withdraw any significance, any meaning to it. Because meaning, as I said, the skull doesn't understand meaning and the arm doesn't understand meaning. But if you tie something to my arm, it's there. Put something in my head, it's there. On the head, on the skull.
Paltiel?
Sir, I'm sorry, I'm
Hello?
getting everybody exhausted about it. You with me here? These are these words over here. Yes, go ahead, Baruch.
Just to clarify, the relationship between din and tzimtzum. Din is the source for tzimtzum, or vice versa?
Vice versa.
Tzimtzum is the source for din.
Right.
And this is because tzimtzum creates Makom.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Is this what you always refer to, this Makom, is what you referred to long ago as buildable space?
I don't remember the term buildable place. Say yes. Space. What?
Space that creates Afsharis.
Afsharis. That's right.
Is that what happens then? And when there's space, there's Afsharis.
That's right. And the
Before there's
Afsharis
space,
is undefined.
there's no Afshar. Before there's that space, there's no Afsharis at all.
That's right.
Sure.
Possibility.
What was the point about the tefillin? I didn't get what that was showing.
The film is bringing down the concept and the principle of Avodas Hashem on the bare on the bare bones in space and time. Space does not say anything, nor does time say anything.
They don't, but having tefillin in space and time is
He's making a statement that space and time belong as also Mebish's creation.
even though the arm and the space and time kind of remain neutral Keilim.
The neutral Keilim is saying, and that neutral Keilim is rooted in Avodas Hashem. It's Mebish's creation. It doesn't understand that, but that's what it is.
It does not, and it doesn't become changed by this, but after it gets revealed there.
That's right.
Okay.
This is similar to davening in front of the wall.
That's right. The davening in front of the wall. I mean, said many times. The davening in front of the wall. What are you doing? And there is nothing. This is the pinnacle of davening in Shemoneh. Shema Yisrael. You're sitting here and Hallelujah. You're excited. You're standing like a pillar over there in front of the wall, and that's the pinnacle of davening.
So we're saying now that usually we said tzimtzum is withholding. Now we're not saying withholding because he's putting on film. He's doing an action.
Yes, you're right. This action is possible only because the oil has been drawn out of it. In other words, there's no way. There is not a way that with your seichel, after you be born in Avodas Hashem, you'll come to the conclusion to tie a box on your arm. Never happened.
So what do we call the tzimtzum? The tzimtzum is the withdrawing, or the tzimtzum is that putting on that film, which has...
No, the film, this is the result of the tzimtzum. This is what the Avodas Hashem is translated after the tzimtzum. After the oil on the key is taken, is hidden.
Why should the resulting film after the Rebbe key is taken away.
Okay. How would you express the truth of the godly present? The fact that this place was created by God. How would you express it in this physical space?
So meaning to say that this physical space is void of godliness, and let's say the goof.
No, it's not. It's void of Gila of God.
Gili.
But it belongs to God.
So we match it through. We also put something like
that's right.
Put up a Mashiach flag.
So that show when we say if you wanted to deal with tachtonim, tachtonim means something which makes no statement by itself.
We said many times, I don't know if you were present, and the world is all excited about gravity. Everything goes down, and the whole system, the planetary system, and the Earth and everything is all based on gravity. Gravity, according to the way it is being defined in scientific concept of thought, is that the bigger item pulls a smaller item to it. In Torah there is no such statement. In Torah there is a statement that everything goes down, pulls down. And what is it giving going down? Because everything is created in order to bring out the lowest element, the down, because this is where the time and the Salakos body usually will be fulfilled. That's where everything goes down.
So why is it called Keilim? Why is it film called a Keilim?
Keilim, we explained many times, a Keilim is like this. On the one hand, it's just like a cup, just a material, but it has the form that allows to express a certain air. That's what a Keilim is.
That's a film, it's a doimum, and it allows to express a certain order in this.
Oisios. Okay, this is Oisios called Keilim to the Seichel. Because you cannot express a whole Seichel in one Ois, but you can create a combination of letters. But each one in Zohar, Oisios are called Avonim.
They're called?
Avonim, stones, pebbles. But if you combine several pebbles, you have a structure. You have a house.
So the tzimtzum is the pshat is that it's an action that I'm restraining something, but I really want to come back to you. It's not that I'm just going away. I want to come back to you on your level.
I want to be brought back by the Tach. That's what it is. I'm not going to come back. I want to be brought back.
You should bring me back.
Yeah.
But I'm doing an action. I give you a tefillin. I'm doing something.
The Rebbe said to me in his chesed told me how to do it. But we are the ones who are doing it.
But did something to trigger that you should ask for me? And I'm thinking about like a malamet for a child. He doesn't know anything, and the Melamed is doing something to it, that the student should create something is.
When we gave the student, let's say, the AyinBase, and then the student says, yeah, AyinBase, how about Beis Aleph? So Aleph and Beis allow to create a new combination of Beis and Aleph. This union of creating different combinations from the Keilim, this is something which is done on the Tachtonim level. Because this is exactly what happens. One of all the words that we're learning, all the words in davening, different letters combined, formed in different order. Which means that you're functioning at the Makom, at the neutral level, at the Makom level. I think that the illustration of the Shnayim Urchim Talis is so powerful. And if you examine very carefully, this is halacha at its best. This is all halacha is.
You say this is this attribute of
the current reality.
It's not necessarily going back and figuring out all the best.
Exactly right.
It's just what's right under the circumstances.
Why?
Yeah.
Because this circumstance is also real. This is the Makom that the Rebbe created. All right, give me a chance to relax.
what?
Episode?
Yeah. When it was said to Shlomo that all of human seichel couldn't come to tefillin.
Right.
This seems like maybe a chabal, a lacking, because the human seichel is like the highest faculty. You think it would have the best way to handle the space, the Keilim that are out there, but no. It doesn't have the means to sanctify the space. It can only...
Like we said, Seichel is based on what brought it to this point.
Okay.
But the reality of the point itself is beyond Seichel.
Way beyond. Way beyond.
Way beyond. I told you I had this experience. I had to put on film in an airport terminal, when you travel from Australia, you have no choice at some point. You have no choice. Because it's too early beforehand, and you have no choice. So I had to daven at the airport terminal. I stood in there. I tried to find a corner seat, but that was the best I could do. I stood up, put on my talis, put on my tefillin, and stood in daven, finished davening, and took off my tin, put on my mental tefillin, folded everything up, and everything was folded up. And the two ladies behind me, I didn't even know. After I finished, I said, that was beautiful. We're sorry, we were. What's the word?
Couldn't help noticing.
I couldn't help staring at you, but I'm sorry. I couldn't help it.
Happens a lot.
And that shows on the
Something
point.
real happening. They don't even know what it is.
And we couldn't have made it ourselves. We couldn't have.
No.
Couldn't have created something real.
Yeah.